for the east side, this for the west side, this for the north side, this for the south side, this for the O, this for the O, this for the O, this for the O. I represent my
The Inward
I
Nine.
represent my town, I represent my state, believe it's going down. I'm from the O, I'm from the O, I'm from the O.
Welcome back to the Inward Nine, a fantasy golf metrics production. My name's Jeff Ulrich. And this week we're recapping the Colonial, the Fort Worth Invitational, if you want to call it that. We'll definitely be touching on the Memorial, getting into fantasy plays, bets, lots of Tigers talk, stuff like that. Joining me as always, Stephen Richter from Fantasy Golf Metrics, co-founder at FG Metrics on Twitter. And yeah, it was an interesting week at the Fort Worth Invitational. I mean, it was definitely sort of a recap, almost like a revisitation of the players. You either had Justin Rose or you didn't. There were some players who played really well behind him. Emiliano Grillo, Brooks Koepka, but they just could not lay a finger on Justin Rose. Completely dominant performance. Actually, like the third dominant performance we've seen in a row. Because we had Webb Simpson, Aaron Wise was dominant, and then Justin Rose. So I don't know, Steve, what did you think of the tournament altogether? Did you watch much, or was it just kind of like you saw Rose pulling away on Saturday and you're like, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't watch. I tracked it pretty much just to kind of see how guys were performing. The guys that we liked. A couple of guys we had high ranked finished what we had Rose in the first class. Grillo was a guy that we had bet, so we were pulling for that. Koepka we had second ranked overall, so it was just trying to kind of follow the data and see if guys were playing like we expected them to. I mean, listen, Rose, and I think it was kind of hard to tell. Obviously, the overarching data was there for him. But like you said, if you didn't have him, then it was tough to do much. But if you did, it was a nice, easy walk through the park all weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't want to say it was like a huge shock that Justin Rose played well because he's such a good player. But at the same time, first time out on the course, obviously was playing here instead of BMW in England. I was a little surprised he won. I mean, he wasn't like a huge like non-Justin Rose guy the last week. I wasn't like telling people not to play Justin Rose, but I was kind of surprised. I mean, first time on a course, it's pretty impressive to just come here and dominate, especially a course like Colonial, which can be a little tricky. And it's interesting because we think of Colonial as like this tight track where like you got to be like precise off the tee. Hasn't really played like that the last couple of years. You're seeing more guys like Jon Rahm, Koepka, Rose take these drivers off the tee. It's not quite as tight as maybe we think it is. Definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on next year. I'm not going to sway away from the bombers, especially the ones in good form, because you could definitely see Kevin Tway too is in like 370-yard drives, just like driving these par fours that most people wouldn't even think about. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you noticed that, but definitely something to, and the data kind of showed that too. That the driving distance wasn't like that far down as like an average tour stop. So something to think about anyways.
Yeah, and I think listen, it's a specific type of kind of game management type course, or like in ball striking in that way. And I think that's what
Right.
people have thought for a while. But if guys are hitting it as well as they have been off the tee and they have that power, I mean, they're just so precise. Like every single year, you see more and more the power driving game gets more precise, and it makes it where it has to be more of a conversation than kind of just navigating the course like we used to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. I mean, there's just no reason to fade guys like Brooks Koepka when they're playing that well, regardless of where they're playing. I mean, it's just there's no point because they're just such good players. Like you said, they're precise and they can be long. So anyways, it was an interesting week for me. I mean, I had Grillo like everyone else, and I got some top five back. I got some top five back from Louis, who I backed in play. He came through with a birdie on 18. That was cool. Ben Crane birdied 18 for a top 10 for me. That was awesome too. So I had some Sunday sweats going on, but it was mainly just to break even because all my other guys like just faded out from the win. I had two guys in the web.com. Shout out to Wyndham Clark. He was 17 under through 3 rounds. I think that would have actually won the tournament, but then he was 4 over in his third round. So that was awesome. It was like the complete opposite awesome. But that was my week anyways. Happy to break even. Move on. Memorial.
Yeah, we went more with the winners. Obviously, had a couple guys in. I mean, Kirk made a run early in the week. I thought he might be around, kind of faded, and then came back. Greal was the main guy that we had. We had the head-to-head with Rahm over Fowler, but other than that, yeah, kind of missed. I mean, I think a lot of our guys, they played well, but it was just like you said, Rose or not, it wasn't really like anyone was contending to win.
And I mean, when you go heavier on outrights, I mean, it's going to be more of like a hit or miss thing, but especially in a week where you haven't like a huge winner like that. Chad Campbell made the cut though.
Listen, check if you were playing him in DFS, I think he got you what you needed at the price.
Hey, if you're on the FGM if you're on the Fantasy Golf Metrics email list, you know this is like what 15 weeks in a row that the guys made the cut with your hashtag.
It's crazy. I mean, the hashtag thing was just kind of something fun I was doing with a couple of friends in like a group chat, and I said, you know what, the name's fun. I think I started it with Reeve. It was ready for Reeve because I was like, is he gonna win? And one of my friends like always makes jokes about him, so I'm like, all right, I'm putting him in the email because we like him. So it was hashtag ready for Reeve. He played well. He finished like top 10 that week. So I'm like, you know what? Each week I'm gonna put like a value play, do a hashtag, do some silly name, and I've just been tracking every single one. Yeah, it's 15 straight weeks now that value play. It's basically on Fantasy Draft if they're under 14,000. Most of them are under 13, but that's kind of the threshold. And yeah, I mean, it's not like they've been finishing. A couple of them have finished top 10. We've had Streelman when he was playing well, but it's all about just kind of a value guy making the cut. And we had Campbell, and there you go.
Yeah, it's not like you're taking Dustin Johnson every week either.
Exactly.
So I mean, like it's guys like Chad Campbell. So
the one thing
it's pretty impressive.
I'm refusing to duplicate a player, so I'm trying to because I don't want to use the same name. So it's kind of like my own one and done. Like because there's a couple of weeks where I'm like I still like the same guy and they're still in the same value, but if I've already used them, that's it. So we'll see who comes up this week.
All right, so keep an eye on that. But anyways, let's move on because, I mean, there's not much else to talk about the Colonial. We've got a really good tournament this weekend and tomorrow. But just before we go on, make sure you do check out the site if you haven't already, if you haven't signed up, or it's free to sign up, obviously, on Fantasy Golf Metrics. But there's so many tools. Got a new Round Searcher tool out, which is really, really cool. The lineup builder is still there. If you do any kind of entry tournaments, it is really, really awesome. You can customize the exposure like per player, and I'm talking down to like 10%. So it's not just one of these things where it's like either or, like out or in. It's really, really cool tool. Articles up there too, definitely something worth checking out. And if you get it now, I mean, you can go with the monthly subscription. It'll take you through the US Open. You can even do it like 2 months and take you through the Open too, so you get 2 major championships in there. But check it out. It's only $5 per week too. Let's move on to the Memorial. This is going to be a really good tournament. I mean, I looked at the field, like on Saturday night or something. I'm like, I almost couldn't believe it. I'm like, everyone's playing this tournament. Like if Rory was coming over from playing in Europe, Rose is back in the field. Day's even playing. I was kind of surprised about that. So, I mean, literally all the big guns are here. I was trying to think of people who were skipping, and it's like Paul Casey and Brooks Koepka, and like that's it. So, it's going to be an interesting week. I mean, what are you kind of surprised about the field? Or, I mean, how do you feel about this tournament?
No, I mean, personally, I've always looked at this event as a premier event. It's generally a strong field. Obviously, it's a lot stronger this week than it has been maybe in some years, but it's really exciting right now. You have these premier events. I consider this one of the like a upper end type event. It's
like a WGC almost.
Yeah, it's that level. Smaller field, like 120 something. But it's so exciting right now because you get an event like obviously the Masters, then you get the Players, and now even these like kind of one step down events. These guys, it's a perfect timing a couple weeks before the U.S. Open for them to gauge themselves on a somewhat difficult track against an elite field. It's really exciting every single time we get one of these types of events because the fields are getting stronger in the higher end events, and it's just you don't know who's going to win. I mean, any one of these guys can get it done. It's exciting. It's tough for us because we're trying to make the picks, but at the same time, it's so good for the game, and it's really enjoyable to watch these types of fields come together.
Yeah, no, I mean, 2 weeks out from the U.S. Open, so there's going to be a lot of hype around whoever does well here. Keep that in mind. Obviously, we'll talk about the U.S. Open coming up a little bit because it's only a couple weeks away. But yeah, I mean, keep that in mind if you're looking to make like a anti-post bet or something like that. I mean, if say like Ricky Fowler opens with like a 64, I mean his price is going to drop for the U.S. Open real quick. So keep an eye on things this week if you want to get some U.S. Open bets in beforehand. But let's move through the field. I mean, for just looking at DraftKings pricing here, obviously it's a little strange. Number one player in the world is the 5th most expensive only, which is a little weird. Justin Thomas, 10,300. Dustin Johnson still number one, 11,300. Doesn't have the greatest track record at this course, so I honestly don't understand where this is coming from, but it is what it is. Jason Day, second, 11,100. Rory McIlroy, 10,008. And then Justin Rose, last week's winner, who's pretty justified, I think, at fourth. He maybe could be lower than Thomas, obviously, but he could also be higher than McIlroy because he's got a fantastic track record at Memorial, past winner, past runner-up. Cost me, I think, $13,000 when he lost to David Lingworth a few years ago. We won't talk about that again, but yeah, it's all cool. I don't know. I mean, of this top group, I mean, I this is like the standard question I give you every week, but just off the top, I know the survival guide isn't quite out yet. You're still waiting on a little bit more data. It's Memorial Day long weekend, but who are you most afraid to fade from this like top 7, 8 guys?
Well, let's see. Right now, I do have a copy of the survival guide in front of me.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I just have to tweak it. But
yeah,
I'd say it's about 90% done from what we do on a model basis. So I don't know if this is going to be exactly it, but we do have Justin Thomas as number 1 ranked, assuming that anything changes from when I just add some stuff in there. So, like you said, he's 2 of 4 making cuts here. I'm not really too sure. I think that's maybe why the price is a little down. It's not as much excitement on him. Rose we have right after that currently. So, I mean, Rose is the kind of player that if he's on form, he can come out and kind of play just as well as he did last week. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays well. Again, you asked last week who's afraid to fade, and this week I'm not afraid of anyone. If you feel strongly about not going with one of these guys, I don't really have any conviction on one of them as like the you have to play this guy, in the 5-figure category. I mean, Rory's at 10-8. Day. I mean, Day. They're all playing well, but none of them are such a slam dunk here. I mean, it's a difficult track. No one has a real perfect record here. I mean, Reed's hasn't missed a cut, but each of these guys have a couple blemishes here, so it's not like a complete slam dunk. I mean, unless you're Tiger Woods and you're 9 for 9 with an average finish of 20, but I guess we'll get to that too.
Well, and maybe Tiger's the guy you're most afraid to fade. I mean, we will definitely talk about Tiger because I mean, I'm big on Tiger this week. I mean, I'm big on Tiger. I think this is the place. But of these top 5, I mean, Justin Rose, obviously the recent form definitely makes you think. Now, I was kind of expecting Justin Rose to be like $1,000 cheaper, and I thought he might be like a value play that people just couldn't pass up. But at 10-6. It's pretty expensive, so I don't necessarily feel the need to roster him, like even make a cash game lineup with him. The other 3 guys, I mean, Rory, Day, and Dustin. Day, I'm perfectly fine fading at this course, to be quite frank. He's not accurate off the tee. He really struggled here last year, quite frankly. I know he's like T16, but that was like a backdoor T16, if you get my drift. Barely made the cut. He was kind of out of sorts. Not that he couldn't turn it around and just like have an amazing week with the driver, but I'm not too afraid of Jason Day here. I feel like he's just playing this to kind of as a good warm up for the U.S. Open. Dustin Johnson is interesting. He's actually got some high finishes here. I think he was 3rd here one year. Just let me bring on my sheet. Yeah, he's got a 3rd and a 4th. So Dustin's played these less than driver courses better over the past few years. Not this is necessarily like a full less than driver course because I mean there's some short par 5s that Dustin's gonna be able to reach, but I feel like if I'm going to target one of these top 3 guys, it would probably be DJ. I feel like his recent form is actually pretty solid. He was solid at TPC Sawgrass. He just hasn't found that extra gear yet, but he makes so many birdies. I mean, I think he might be, the GPP play for me out of these 3.
Yeah, we talk about the lesson driver. I mean, you put that post up. What was it? Was it yesterday? I think later in the day about the driving
the course
accuracy.
Snapshot, yeah.
And it's interesting because it's definitely not a course where we're going to say you need to look at driving accuracy, but when you use the course snapshot tool, if you change it to our data, the average winner here is hitting 8.5% more fairways in the field compared to the average tour winner that's about 3.5%. So they are hitting more fairways, but it's a little different because it's not as hard to hit the fairways. So it's not so much like you need to be a specialist, but it's more one of those things where if you are really bad, I think that's where I might take pause. It's not like I'm keying in on the accurate drivers, but I want to make sure that a guy that's like bottom of the field in driving accuracy, he might have a problem because it's the type of place where if you get off, even though it's not that hard, off the tee, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think that's what it's really telling us is you can't be bad, you just have to be at least decent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's perfect. That's pretty much exactly what I was going to say too. It's not necessarily a course where you weigh driving accuracy, but at the same time, you want someone who's not scumming it up off the tee like every second hole or something like that. Because the rough's thick around here. if you miss the greens, it just gets worse. So you definitely like want to hit as many fairways and greens as possible. So, Tiger Woods, I mean, obviously he's like 200th in driving accuracy, but at the same time, that does take into account his first few tournaments where he's awful off the tees, improved off the tee of late. It also doesn't take into account the fact he knows this course. He's very good at keeping it in play. He knows he's got to keep it in play. So, Ricky Fowler, who's not an accurate driver of the ball, he led the field in driving accuracy last year. So a lot of it's just form. A lot of it's just like strategic stuff that guys got to know how to play the course. And at the same time, you do want players who are going to have that in their bag to keep it on the course. So if a guy's been struggling with accuracy of late or just total like driving strokes gained, it might be something to play you off. So definitely a good sort of way to just look at the week, in my opinion, too. So let's just move on. Let's talk to Tiger and 9,400. What are your thoughts on him this week? I mean, I feel like this is it. I feel like he's going to get it done this week. I'm revealing my hand. I mean, there's no surprise at the end. I'm picking Tiger to win this week.
It's not much. I'm going to go against that. I mean, we have him up there in recent form. We have him 11th in form. Obviously, the history is there. Like I mentioned, 9 of 9 cuts. He's the only guy with at least 6 starts that has made the cut every single time. The average finish is just about 20th. The strokes gained putting is, as an average over the last 12 weeks, which for him is 4 events. If you take away the Masters, because you don't actually have that data, it's 3 events. He's still 26. I know he's kind of had some up and down rounds, one particularly bad event. 10th in strokes gained tee to green over that same time frame. So, everything's lining up. If he wasn't Tiger Woods, he'd still be someone that we would just be looking at probably in the first class as just a contender at this price range. I think 9,400, again, if it wasn't a name involved and you were just looking at the data, you'd be really excited about. And then you take in the fact that, he is who he is and he has the history here. You might be right. It could be the guy that you could be afraid to fade, because at this price, given the overall form, given the history, a lot of people probably will be interested in him. And if he does go out and win and you don't have it, 9,400 is a really strong value for a winner.
Exactly. And just building on what you said, 4 of his last 6 starts, he's been T12 or better. Top 15 on tour in strokes gained approach, tee to green, and around the green play. Been driving it better lately. He's 9,400, and he's got the course history to end all course histories at this tournament. So I'm in. It's like you said. You can erase the name this week, and he's still a really strong play. So, that being said, it's not like he's the only player in the 9K range that we need to talk about. Jordan Spieth is 9,800. When was the last time Jordan Spieth was under 10K?
That's a good question. I could probably pull that up, but it
wasn't
a long
this
time.
Year.
A long time.
It's been a long time. So. I don't know. What do you got on Jordan Spieth for me? 70th in putting last week. He wasn't hitting it that bad. He was kind of out of it too, after Friday. So I don't know how much you take from his weekend performance anyways, but I don't know. 9,800, I feel like that, I talk about Justin Thomas being ridiculously underpriced, but this is a good price for Spieth.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he's what direction do you feel like Jordan Spieth is trending in right? Do you feel like he's ready to break out? Because I've heard people say that.
I think.
But do you think that?
I think it's on a higher level. The trend is upward, but it's not consistently. You're going to see it every single event. It's felt to me like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. So it's harder to time or kind of pinpoint how. When he's going to get it done. But I think overall he is trending in the right direction, but it's really hard to tell. He's 5 of 5 here, so, he hasn't missed the cut, average finish at 31st. It's not the same Spieth that we've been excited about, a year or 2 ago. It's a good player. He's obviously one of the best players in the world still, but it's just a different way of getting around the course.
It's also it feels like he's dropped off a little bit since the Masters. It doesn't feel like he took that momentum from the Masters and kind of built on it. It almost feels like he's getting more frustrated. So I feel like this is a little bit of a make it or break it. He's either going to miss the cut and we're going to all just get off him on the next event, or he's going to do something special. I mean, I don't think this course is necessarily awful for him. We talked about, I know it's a driving accuracy course, but it's not necessarily like you have to have high driving accuracy stats. He's top 5 tier a couple times. So, like it's, I don't know. I don't mind this course. I mean, fast bank grass greens like Augusta. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the ownership projections are on Jordan Spieth and if people trust him, because it's almost at that point where I can see people getting off him now. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anyone else. I mean, Fowler, yeah, I think.
Ricky's putter woke up last week. He's like 5th in strokes gained putting. Too bad he couldn't hit an approach. He was like 66th. So yeah. I don't know what's going on with Ricky. The thing about Fowler's, I don't get scared about Ricky when he doesn't hit it well necessarily, because I feel like he's very good at adjusting quickly. But at the same time, I don't feel the need to roster him at this tournament now.
Yeah, I mean, of course we say that, and he'll go out and probably win it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's in the same thing with him. I don't feel like you can have too much confidence in him. I mean, he'll be up there in the rankings, but not, he's not going to be one of our top like 10, 15 guys.
There's just no way. I mean, with the way he's hitting it and stuff like that. So, and he was in better form at this time last year. I mean, he almost won last year, but that was with leading the field in driving accuracy. I don't think he's got that ability to this year. So. Stenson is kind of interesting on this course. He hasn't played here much.
Yeah, he's got 4 starts overall. I'm not sure what's the last.
Nothing better than a 41st. Last one was 2013, so he hasn't played here in like 5 years. But at the same time, he's a guy who will keep it out of trouble. He'll hit a lot of greens.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been about ball striking. Even Matsuyama, Stenson, those are guys that you'd expect to play well here. When you drop just below them and you get into the 8s, there's a whole handful of guys that I'm excited about this week. I mean, I think it's really juicy there. It's one of those things where, maybe you take your stab with who you like in the 9s, you go with that. But I think if you can get, 2 or 3 of these guys in the 8s, I really like them. I mean, do you have anyone in there that you like?
I mean, I'm fine with staying on Grillo for another week. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. He hits a lot of fairways too. You worry a little bit. He just played in like 98-degree heat. He was in contention, but at the same time, I'm not going to get off him because of that. Matt Kuchar's fine. I mean, cash games, I would definitely have him on my roster. Loves this course. I just don't know about Adam Scott. I just don't feel like. I feel like there's better players with better upside. I mean, consistency and making cuts is fine, but he wouldn't be high on my list. Haven't looked into much to Patrick Reed yet this week. He is kind of interesting, though, I admit.
I think he's, very interested. He's always under-owned.
Yeah.
You have a guy that's now a major winner. He's made 6 straight cuts with an average finish of 12.2. He's never missed a cut here, average finish of 30.3. He's going to be at 8,900. He's probably still going to be in that 10% or less owned. And, he's won a major. He's won a WGC. He's won events. This is an event he's performed well at. Like, there's no reason he can't go out there and win this event. So I think he's a pretty solid GPP play. He'll be up there for us. Just so you know, Kuchar, by the numbers, is technically edging Woods in the course history rank, just because of how kind of ridiculous, so many top 5s that he actually has. Also has the win. They're pretty close, but I just thought I'd bring that up.
Well, and Tiger's bombed here like a couple times. I mean, like that's one time he was basically could barely walk, and he shot like 85. But and then another time, I think he just had a bad week. Like I think it was after his Players win in 2013. So Kuchar, it kind of makes sense.
11 starts with an average finish of 16.3, which is with a missed cut, and we factor in the actual value of the missed cut finish position. That's pretty crazy to stay that low. The guy I like a lot, just in that range. I liked him a lot last week until he withdrew. We talked about him beforehand, but with Schwartzel, I really like him.
He's striking it well right now.
Everything looks. There's no reason, because I loved him last week. He withdrew. It doesn't seem like there was any real issue. He just needed a week off. Unless something else changes, he's going to be a guy that I definitely like this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, Charles Schwartz, I can get behind that. And Charles Schwartzel, unless he's like super cheap, is never highly owned. And I mean, he's in between Phil, Tony Finau, Grillo. So he's not going to be highly owned. I mean, he was less than 1% of the players. So even with like a good streak, I don't think he's going to be super popular. But he's got a super good course history too. He's been T11 or better in 3 of his last 5 starts here. Like he was T35 this event last year, and he was like playing injured. So he likes the setup. I mean, this is a good course for Charles Schwartzel too. I mean, he likes fast greens. He's obviously won it at Augusta, so I got no qualms against him. I mean, I might even just start a cash game lineup with like Kuchar, Schwartzel, and Woods this week. I mean, like you can't go wrong with course history like that, and guys who are playing well too. It's kind of sick. So
another guy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I wasn't gonna say that.
No, another guy right below him. Tony Finau looks pretty good on paper right now. 8,100. Once he got 6 straight cuts made. 3 of 3 here. Bent grass guy, obviously. 3 of 3 here, 19.7 average finish, 6 of 6 recently, 22.5, and we got him run, 12th in recent form, trending in the right direction. I mean, I think at that price, I think he's a pretty solid play. I mean, unless you see something different where you think a lot of people might be on him. I don't know what the ownership level is going to be for him. But I know I've been a little cool on him relative to kind of the industry. I was bigger on him. I've kind of cooled off. But I think now I'm back to getting on board with Finau.
Yeah, I mean, he's always a good DFS play. Like, even when he's not even that playing that good, he makes so many birdies. I know he makes bogeys, but I guess you worry about him a little bit at this course just because, there is trouble off the tee and stuff like that. And you can... you got to rely on the short game. At the same time, the short game's been better this year, so I don't have too much bad to say about him. I think I'd probably lean Schwartzel if I really had to choose this week because I feel like Schwartzel's, just where he's at with his game is higher level right now, and Finau is still coming off that injury. I would definitely look at Finau as more of a GPP play this week, but he would be a play I'd want some exposure to because he's got such a good ceiling, and he's only 8,100. So oftentimes we see Finau like 89, 9,000. People still play him. So at this price, especially with guys like Hadley, Duffner below him who will get some ownership, I don't mind it. Guy underneath him, I kind of feel similar about though, and is probably playing a little bit better than Finau over the last month or so. You probably know what I'm going to say, right? Or do you? Maybe you don't, actually.
I mean, it depends. I mean, if you're talking about Duffner,
I'm not.
Okay, I'm trying to look at the prices right below. I mean, you like Benny?
I like Benny Ann. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's between those two.
Obviously Aaron Wise is there. At the same time, missed the cut last week. Doesn't have too much course history. Benny Ann's played well here twice. The ball striking there, his tee to green is there. His short game actually improved a little bit of late, which I like. I feel like that's going to be a factor here. The reason I kind of like this track for Benny Ann is you look at a guy like Duffner who won here, basically just pure ball striking. Benny Ann can ball strike it like Duffner, on his best week. So if he comes here with that kind of game and his short game's a little bit better, I feel like he can have a big week. I don't necessarily think like he's a better player than Finau long term, but I just feel like maybe his game is in a little bit closer to like its peak right now. So I would probably lean Benny Ann just for the price difference too. I mean, are you big on Duffner for a bounce back? Because I mean, he obviously disappointed a lot of people last week. Disappointed me.
Yeah,
like 77 rounds. I mean, it's just one round, so I can't sit here and be like, don't play Duffner. But
we had him. We liked him. Obviously, playing relatively well. I think it's more looking at the course history. Obviously, won here. Some really strong finishes over the last 4 years. I got to look a little more. Some of the data that I'm normally looking to look at isn't in front of me right now, so I don't know if it's just like a one-round thing or if overall it didn't look so good. But yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it's the type of course where he can go out and win because if he just does his ball striking thing. But I mean, listen, he can pretty much do that anywhere if he gets hot. So kind of on the fence right now with him. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the only thing that'll leave me off him is it's a deeper field. If his ball striking is a little bit off, Duffner's the kind of guy who can mail it in like last week. So I would probably lean other ways this week, but you can't really doubt him too much with the course history, I guess.
Yeah. All right, you know what? Hold on. Let me just let me stop this recording again now. But yeah, I mean, if you look just below that level, a lot of interesting kind of plays in the 7,000 range, and that's not something that I feel like we've said. I mean, we've been focusing more in that 8,000 range recently, but obviously DeChambeau getting down into the sevens is pretty interesting, given how well he's actually played. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, DeChambeau obviously being at that price is a little surprising. I mean, he's just coming off like one mediocre performance, nothing too bad. He's been so solid the whole year. He's probably going to be one of the most chalkiest plays on the slate, which, is good or bad, whatever you think of him, I guess. But I don't mind Bryson at the scores. I mean, full disclosure, I already bet him at 66-1 this morning. I thought it was like too good a number to pass up, so took the top five too. There are a lot of plays I like around this range. I already talked about Benny Ann, who I think is interesting. But I mean, Louis coming off a good week. I mean, he strokes gained approach. The last two rounds at Colonial, gained over 2 strokes on the field. I mean, he had an insane ball striking weekend. So, you need that kind of ball striking at this course. I mean, he doesn't really have the course history here. But again, he's setting up like maybe an elite GPP play, because he certainly was one last week. Kevin Na, 7,600, just keeps rounding out like awesome finishes.
Yeah, I mean,
Chuck Howell's there too. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of guys in that value range that in a much weaker field, you'd probably have them in the upper 8s, low 9s in some of the events we've seen recently, and all of a sudden they get dropped down. So they're obviously good players. I remember I think Charles Howell was like 9,800 in an event a couple of weeks back. So $2,000 discount doesn't mean he's a bad player. It's just there's a lot of other good players. So Kevin Na back to back, fourth and sixth. Like you said, with Lee 14th, another great finish for him. So obviously a great play. Kirk finished 11th. Still a guy that I'm definitely interested in. How about the year Rory Sabatini's putting together for himself? I mean, nothing too crazy, but 20th, 13th, 30th, 27th, 23rd, his last 5 starts. I mean, pretty interesting to see him kind of playing as well as he has been.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people forget this is like used to be like the number 2 player in the world. I mean, this guy went on like a sick run for a couple of years. Talented guy. I mean, he's not like that old. I think he's 40 or something like that. So he doesn't get it out there. I mean, he's never going to overpower any courses, but this is another pretty good setup for him, in my opinion. He's done well this event before. His short game is really good right now too, and when his short game is putting is working, that's usually when he plays well. So I don't even know how many cuts in a row he's made. It's a lot. I think it's over 10. So I mean, 7,300. You might as well just keep riding Rory until he blows up or something like that. And I mean, on this course, like I said, he's got the experience, so I definitely can't hate it.
Uline, not really to get off him. He didn't play last week, 21st at Byron Nelson, 5th at Wells Fargo, a guy that we've kind of been a little more excited about. I mean, there's a lot of guys down in that range that have some really strong finishes. I mean, obviously Keith Mitchell was a guy we liked. He finished 3rd at the Nelson. Even Spawn, he did what we thought he might do, and kind of just like completely disappoint us last week. But that's what you get from him. I think that's kind of what we said on the podcast. Like, there's room for him to kind of get better, but at the same time, it's just the level of consistency isn't necessarily there. So it wouldn't surprise me if he even bounces back. Much more difficult field, but all these guys down there, it's just a consistency question. I mean, Kevin Tway, you liked him at Byron Nelson. Too bad, I don't know if you had anything on him to follow up last week. You finished 5th. I'm sure you're a little disappointed there.
I really, really wanted to play him over JJ Spawn, and I just couldn't pull the trigger, and it cost me a lot, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, he's another guy. I mean, $7K for Kevin Tway coming off like 3 really good performances, a monster finish last week. It's just too cheap. I feel like it's something you should probably take advantage of and not think twice of. I mean, just keep playing. I mean, he's a talented player. I mean, he hits it a ton, but his short game is working right now too. Like, you look at the stats from his short game and stuff like that. It's almost like mini Luke List right now. He's ball striking and his short game is working. So I wouldn't, at 7K, I was like, wow, why is Kevin Tway this cheap? I thought he was going to be in like the Cantlay range, but he's got to be considered too, right? So I mean, this is just stacked, quite frankly, in this range.
That's what I think it's. And again, like I said, I'll repeat, it's less of a consistency thing, which is why they're down there. But I'm kind of taken back by exactly how many strong finishes. I mean, generally when you're trying to make a case for a guy in the low 7s, You're looking at how they've played. Maybe they'll have a couple top 25s and be a 20th and 18th. They'll sprinkle in here with like a 40th and 50th. But there's a lot of guys here that have had, third place finishes, seventh place finishes, fifth place. Like they're finishing strong. And if any one of these guys at this price point, can have one of those finishes in this field, like you're way ahead of everyone else. So it's definitely a lot more appealing than most other weeks to go this low.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I mean, just going through it, it's ridiculously stronger than most weeks. So I guess it kind of lends itself to taking some chances because I mean you're going to get players like Bud Cauley at like 1% ownership, and Bud Cauley's played well on Jack Nicklaus courses. So I mean that's just my opinion. And, viewing this week from a strategy standpoint, Peter Uihlein still probably isn't going to be like heavily owned. He finished well here last year though. Keegan Bradley's down here, who's rolling together some nice finishes. He does have course history here. He might actually get some ownership. But I mean, we can go back up too. I mean, guy like Xander Schauffele. I mean, two starts ago, he was first tee to green, finished T2, missed the cut brutally last year, but he's still on Bentgrass greens, 74. He's probably gonna be like 4% owned this week. So I don't know. This is like it's a tough range to figure out, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to get. I'd hate to go with Xander and be wrong, but he's definitely. You got to feel like he's one of the highest upside guys in this range. That's where I would think. I mean, him obviously Cantlay in that range. I mean, obviously both struggling in terms of consistency, but have both flashed some really strong finishes over the last like say 2 months or so. But those are probably two of the guys that you could really see making a jump and you wouldn't be surprised. Some of these guys you just kind of got to be right and maybe even a little bit lucky, but there's definitely the talent there.
Well, let's talk about it in terms of this. I mean, who are you definitely on here, and who are you going to fade from this range? Are you fading Cantlay, or are you going to be like, are you just going to like take a lot of, or would you just take a lot of them?
It depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about cash, he's so unexciting and so unsexy now, but Adam Hadwin is just like, he's a cut machine. Like he's just consistent. I mean, I know the last two events, Players and last week, 57th, 52nd, not really too exciting, but they're just kind of whatever finishes. To me, it's not. I'm not showing a strong or a steep decline, in his ability or in his numbers. He just kind of hasn't finished as strong. So if I'm trying to think about cash and who I feel better about in that range, definitely, Hadwin's feels safer. I'm still there with Kirk, and I liked him a lot last week. He had a couple really strong stretches, and then a couple really bad ones, but he still finished 11th overall. So, he's been playing well.
I like Kirk a lot here too, by the way. It's really strong on approaches, like almost the entire season. Just really just had a bit of an off week around the greens last week and a couple other areas, but he played well. I mean, this is a good setup for Chris Kirk. He's finished really high. I think he's got a top 5 or a top 3 or something. So I'm in on Chris Kirk this week for sure.
Yeah, your boy Joaquin Niemann, he obviously came out.
So okay, did you read my tweet about Niemann on the week?
I think I missed it. What do you got?
Okay, so it was before round 2. I'm like, okay, Joaquin Niemann. I'm going through 3 balls, just looking to make some bets, and Niemann's going up against like Conrad Schindler, who's a Web.com player, and God, who was the other player now? It was someone. Oh, Taylor Gooch, who was just like playing horribly, like losing multiple strokes off the tee, and Niemann was plus money, like he was like better than even odds. He was like 2.1 or so. So I'm like, I tweeted out, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, if you can find this 3 ball, just pound Niemann, because he was 7th in a strokes in approaches the first day. Niemann goes out first hole, 3 putts from 10 feet. Schindler birdies. It's like the whole day was like that. Niemann like 3 putted from 15 feet like twice. Like it was his only bad round of the week. He finished like 9 under par, but he was 2 over that day. So I lost the bet. I tweeted out. People were tweeting me like, glad I didn't make that bet. Whatever. Like anyways. The guy's a stud. Anyway, this is my point. It was I'd make that bet 20 times out of 20. But...
That's the one thing I hate about the round by round betting is like you can be right about a player and just not win that round. Like, and that's
I did it twice last week too. I bet Streelman against Tim Herron, and oh god.
Anyway. I liked Tim Herron a little bit. He had a really weird course history here. I mean, I had a win like 10 years ago here too.
Yeah.
So he showed up a little bit, which was like Tim Herron, like he was like
He's talented. He's one
Yeah.
of the players. Like I mean he hasn't played on tour, so I figured get decent odds to Streelman. But anyways, that's my sad Joaquin Niemann story. Again, yeah, I agree though. I mean, you know who played well last week too in that range? Russell Knox.
Yes, I saw him. He's got a lot of really decent finishes. He was kind of on the list here. Let me bring him up. I think he had like one bad finish a couple weeks back, but all of them, I mean, 20th, 16th, yeah, he did 98th at the Players, but yeah, 7th in the team event. You know, he's back to back top 20s though. Definitely interesting. I mean, again, you know, that's good. If you take any of these guys in the low sevens and you get a 20th this week, like, man, it's a home run.
No, and Russell Knox is a guy who can come in here and Duffner the scores. I mean, that's how he's got it. Like he just fires approaches. So I don't mind that. I like that play a lot this week. The other guy I got to mention is my guy Danny Lee, who finished with a 5 under bogey free round last week. Really good DFS play. Didn't come through the top 10, top 5, but I don't mind riding him again. He's ball striking it well. He's really consistent off the tee, which you got to like because this week it's going to be important. Doesn't have the greatest finishes here, but I just feel like he's a talented player. And again, GPP only, but I'll be back on Danny Lee this week. I feel like he's trending well. So that's I guess my last.
Let me step up a couple. Actually, not too far up, but it wouldn't be an Inward Nine podcast if I didn't mention that Chesson Hadley hasn't finished outside the top 20 since the Arnold Palmer Invitational. 20th, 11th, 16th, 4th, 20th, 7th, 18th in his last 7 starts. I mean, it's just he's kind of like one of these players now that I'm not sure I'm going to keep betting him to win, but I'm definitely going to put him in DFS lineups. I'm definitely going to consider him for like top 10 bets because he's like a poor man's like Matt Kuchar right now with how he's playing. You know,
absolutely. I mean, he's like the new Matt Kuchar. Yeah. I mean, he's turning it out, man. I mean, even when he starts poorly, he comes back and fires. And I mean, it's a good layout. I mean, it's not like a huge Bombers course. Doesn't have to go crazy. He's just got to keep it in play and let his approaches do the work mainly. So, I mean, you can't put anyone off Chesson Hadley this week. There's some interesting options around him, but yeah,
well, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, I already went into like Schwartzel, Finau, Grillo. I mean, they're only just above him. But again, I think that's where I think you can go with like a Hadley, Finau, Schwartzel, Grillo combo. That's like an 8,200 average. You know, you take one of the top guys in like the low nines if you want to throw Tiger in there. You want to step up even, go to like that, Spieth at 9,800, and then you can go and get one of those guys in the low sevens that we just talked about. And I think you got a pretty solid lineup. I mean, again, you're going to want a winner, but there's just a lot of combinations where you can feel really good this week, I think, about who you're putting in there.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Let's just dip down into the like sub 7K range here and just talk a bit because I mean, Gary Woodland's 6,900. I mean, any interest?
I mean, ever since we liked him and he paid for us, I haven't felt to go back to the well. I mean, that was a long time ago now, and you're thinking about it. I mean, it feels like it was recent because it was exciting, but we're talking February, so we're well past when he was playing well, so it doesn't surprise me. Other guys down here with some strong finishes. I mean, Satoshi Kadera, he had the win at RBC, finished 20th last week, so he kind of popped up again. But again, this is more the range that I expect to see in the low sevens. Not many strong finishes recently. A lot of missed cuts from these guys. I mean, a lot of missed cuts. I mean, there's really not anyone here. I mean, Armour finished. He's at 7,000 still, so I'm looking at the wrong guys here, but 14th last week. But most of these guys missed a cut last week. A couple guys.
John Hull played a bit better.
Yeah, John Hull, he's 42nd. Hogue 42nd. Mac Hughes. I mean, but realistically, interestingly enough, like Mac Hughes is a guy that was playing so poorly. He's made 3 straight cuts. Nothing too special. I mean, 42nd, 57th, 59th. But again, at 6,600, you're kind of just praying they make the cut. So. At least he's.
I'll throw out a name that maybe a little bit interesting. Alex Cheka. He's made a few cuts. He's hitting a lot of fairways. Short game's good.
Yeah, he's definitely up and down. I mean, he was a guy, if you remember back, when listen, he finished 27th at Wells Fargo. It kind of bottom end in the team event, but yeah, he popped up for us. I mean, he had a withdrawal as well, but he was like a second class guy. Like he was a guy I remember we mentioned. I think he was our highest ranked guy under 7,000 for 1 or 2 weeks. So he's definitely overall for the season, probably playing better than most of these guys in this range. Not necessarily saying I think he's going to pop from that, but it's really hard in this range. I don't think you need to go down here, to be honest. I mean, unless you're really trying to differentiate yourself in GPP and you have a hunch or you see something that, no one else is seeing. I mean, when I put out, some of the stuff that I look at for like the secret stat tomorrow, I'll see if any of these guys pop up. But I don't think you need to. Whereas maybe some weeks you want to go 68, 69 just to get one guy up there. But it's tough this week.
Yeah, I really with how stacked the 7K range is too. Like if I was making 10 lineups, I would just try and get as much exposure to these 7K guys as possible because that's where the real upside is. So I think we're in agreement there. But any last thoughts about the field or anyone else we didn't mention?
I got a thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Kenny Perry's playing this week.
Hey, I guess he's a former winner.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the Keith Clearwater thing from last week. Keith Clearwater shot 25 over par last week, by the way. Kenny Perry is still good though. Like he won't shoot 25 over par. He actually might make the cut. He's back on the senior tour. So, but it's an invitational. So you always see like these random guys. I mean, you got like Doc Redman, like the amateur in the field. I think there might be some other guy like that in there. But actually, it's not too many this week. I don't know who Andrew Dorn. Harry Ellis is another amateur.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who Andrew Dorn is. It's the only guy I don't know. Will Zalatoris is in the field. Got some upside, but not this week. But long term maybe. But I mean it's an invitational field, 120 players. I like these better than the WGCs though because you get a few guys at the bottom who suck, but you get a strong field like this too. I wish they'd make the WGCs like a little bit bigger like this. It'd be better, but that's another conversation.
No, anyways, it's a great. This and like the Arnold Palmer, both Jack and the Kings events are both great events.
Yeah, they are. I mean, especially when you get strong fields, like it's great. This is going to be a great week. I mean, 2 weeks before the U.S. Open. Let's talk about the U.S. Open though a little bit. I mean, you made a pretty big bet over the weekend, didn't you?
Yes, obviously with your help, given the restrictions. But yeah, I mean, and Brooks Koepka, he's a guy that he fits the U.S. Open course as long as they stay on these non-tree courses. I mean, it's a great setup for him. Obviously, he's peaking. We had him second overall last week. Trending in the right direction. Finished second. In the event last week. So as soon as he flashed that 7 under the next day, I was like, I need him. I need him for the Open. Prices did come down. I think they're at like the 30-1 range now, 33-1. He was up between 35 to 45. A lot of talk about that on Twitter. So I'm not saying he's winning 100%. He's winning, but if you can get in at that 35 to 45 range, I think that's a good price. I mean, considering he won it last year, and for most of the time beforehand, like when we had him, he was 40-1. It feels to me like he's more likely if you're just going to kind of have that conversation on what the odds mean. So definitely like him at that price right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can't argue with it. I mean, I probably should have made the bet myself, but I didn't. But 35-1, I think he actually dropped to like 28, like after on like this morning. So I mean, there you go. You might be able to get him at a little bit better price if you shop around, but I don't think he's going to be over 30 the week of. So and I mean, like you talk about like putting is important. I mean, he's like second in strokes gained putt. Like Brooks can putt, so
he's doing both really well right now.
No, he's a prototypical U.S. Open player. I mean, he'll probably win the U.S. Open again at some point, even if he doesn't win this year. So I'm really looking forward to the U.S. So I can't believe it's 2 weeks away. It just doesn't feel like it's 2 weeks away, but it is.
I'm jacked up. We have the house out there. I'm going Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My father's going to be coming out one day, so I'm all jacked up for what that's going to be. But back to
the course. That's awesome.
Yeah. Back to the numbers here. I mean, I'm just looking on Odds Checker to see kind of what different sites are having. I mean, just to compare. I mean, you're looking at Ricky Fowler, who I know we both have liked for this event or talked about it. Kind of all leading up into it. But you look at him as low as 14 on one site to 18 on another. And I just compare that to a 35 to 40-1 on Brooks, and I'm like, how can you tell me that it's twice as likely? I know it's not what the numbers are supposed to represent, but it's just in terms of a value conversation. I mean, I think Rahm, if you can get him at 20 right now, is not terrible. But again, it's the same conversation. I mean, that hasn't won a major before, but we liked him last week. Definitely looking in the right direction. Rose still, he's dropped. I think he was in like the 25 conversation before he won this week. Now he's just in the upper teens.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm looking at Brooks on Odds Checker. It looks like he's dropped significantly. I mean, I'm seeing anywhere down to 20 now, 20 to 28.
Absolutely, yeah. No, he dropped after the tournament. I'll be shocked at the week of if you can get him above like 22. To be honest, like you might not be able to get him above 20. So, and that's probably where he should be. It's like you said, he really shouldn't be bigger than Ricky Fowler for the U.S. Open. So, and especially considering his form, right? So, yeah, it's like you said, it's all about value and just looking right now. I personally, I've been betting a couple players. I think we both kind of still like Alex Noren for this week.
Yep.
I've been getting on him, but I've been betting a little bit of Jason Day too. I'm not gonna lie. Jason Day's got a really good track record in the U.S. Open too. I like the fact it's an open venue for him. So we'll see. He's kind of my early pick, I guess. I know the odds aren't great. That's why I do parlays with like stupid playoff, but they've been paying off. So I'm gonna have some Jason.
I think now is the time to get in on those higher end guys. I mean, the odds aren't gonna get any longer. I mean, listen, if you really have some conviction on
that's the thing, yeah.
on Jason Day, on Jordan Spieth, whoever it is, now's the time. I mean, I don't think it makes much sense to bet Jason Day at 14-1 3 months ago. But now that you're 2 weeks out and you're starting to see the form, if you really feel that way, he's not going to be any better than that number right now. So now is the time to jump on it. So I think if you wait until the week of, let's assuming I'm looking at the number 14 pretty much across the board, he's probably going to be closer to like 11 or 12 if you wait till the Wednesday night beforehand is my guess, is when all the money comes in. So now is the time you're close enough where the form matters, and the price is probably about as good as it's going to be on all these guys. And I mean, DJ at 10-1, I'm not there. Let's see what he does this week. But it's nice to not have really any of these guys in like the 6 to 7-1 range. I mean, if you like any of these higher end guys, I mean, it's a nice return, 12, 14-1 on some of these higher end guys.
Absolutely. It's like you said, if you have a lot of conviction, you can just go big on him. And I mean, the U.S. Open it's a good betting event for the most part because it takes out a lot of the field. Like it really does. I mean, you have to be a certain type of player, in my opinion. Like I'm not going to bet Matt Kuchar at the U.S. Open, most likelihood, although he's had a couple good finishes. I'm probably not going to bet guys like Pat Perez and stuff like that. So Bill Haas, it's a certain type of player. I think it's in a way it's not quite as good as the Masters, which has a smaller field, but it can be a really good betting event. You can often get some long odds on guys who have real shots to win. So, I mean, anyways,
if I'm right on how I'm feeling about Schwartzel, I mean it looks like on 365 he's still 75-1.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic number. I mean,
you like Webb? I know I've seen a lot of people on Twitter. I mean, he's in that kind of 50 to 60 range right now. What are your thoughts?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, he kind of falls in the Matt Kuchar. He's not long off the tee. Gets in a little trouble. I mean, he can putt, obviously, which is really good. And I mean, Goosen won by putting, but at the same time, I don't see it personally. I just don't. I'm not gonna be huge on him here. I know he's won a U.S. Open, but at the same time, that venue was pretty unique for a U.S. Open, in my opinion. So it's not going to be like Shinnecock.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was at that one, and when Webb won, until everything happened in the last 3 or 4 holes, there wasn't a thought that Webb Simpson was going to be the winner. So it kind of just happened. I mean, listen, I'm never going to take it away from him like that he didn't go out and win, and it kind of came to him. He posted the score. He did what he had to do. But yeah, I mean, it was very unique. It's not like you don't think of Webb Simpson as going to go out there and take over a U.S. Open or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on more of like a longer, wide open course like Shinnecock. I don't see it at all. So I won't be on Webb for the U.S. Open. He'll always have a piece of my heart for the players, but that's about it. Yeah. Anyways, that's our pre-U.S. Open talk, I guess. But we'll get more into it next week. But let's finish it off. I mean, give me your pick this week. I've already revealed my hands. I'll redo it, but give me who you think's gonna take this thing down.
I mean, so you're going with Tiger. You think this is the week for Tiger?
I think this is the week for Tiger, man. I mean, I really do. I just feel like there's so many things coming together for Tiger. I mean, obviously any one of these guys, there's so many good players here, but I really feel like this is going to be it. I think this is a great spot. He's in good form. I think he's in better form than people even realize. And quite frankly, I just don't have as much conviction about anyone else. So yeah, I'm all in on Tiger this week.
I'd be thrilled to see it.
Feels
Yeah,
good to say.
I don't dislike it at all. Just to differ it up. I'm gonna stick with Charles. I mean, I really liked him last
Okay.
week. If let's assume all the numbers are good. Let's assume he's healthy. I think this could be a good statement win for him if he comes out and plays strong.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy's been ball striking it amazing. I like that as like a semi under the radar. Definitely an upside pick for DFS. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll end it here, obviously, for the week. Hope you have a good Memorial. Definitely check out the site, fantasygolfmetrics.com. Like I say, it is obviously, in my opinion, the best deal on the internet as far as like fantasy golf information and stats go. $5 for weekly subscription. Check out the yearly options too. But you can check us out at FG Metrics on Twitter. I'm at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. And for Jeff Ulrich, for me, for Stephen Richter, have a great week, guys. Hope you win some big money out there.
Take it easy.
This for the O, this for the O. I represent my hood, I represent my town, I represent my state. Believe it's going down. I'm from the O.